The greatest battle in the world is on the eve of breaking. Please God, it may terminate successfully for us.
We were told it would be a walkover. Of course, we might expect to be sniped at by a stray German, naturally.
Suppose one should lose one's head and get other men cut up. Suppose one's legs should take fright and refuse to move.
On the morning of July the 1st, 1916, 120,000 British soldiers, most of whom are volunteers, prepare to fight the greatest battle of the First World War. This is the story of one of the bloodiest days in the history of warfare. Modern weapons made killing possible on a shocking scale. 20,000 soldiers killed in a single day of fighting. At the end of 1915, the Great War is not going well for Britain and France. After a year and a half of huge effort and heavy losses, large parts of France and most of Belgium remain under German occupation. Both sides have dug in, and a line of trenches stretches from the Channel to Switzerland. In early 1916, in an attempt to break the stalemate, the Allies agree to a joint summer offensive. The area they choose to launch this attack is a 26-mile section of the Western Front in northern France by the River Somme.
There's a superior view up here, sir.
This is more like it.
It's very good drainage, sir.
No more sitting in the mud in Flanders.
The man in charge of Britain's part in the summer campaign is the newly promoted commander of the Fourth Army, General Sir Henry Rawlinson.
It is capital country in which to undertake an offensive. For the observation is excellent, and with plenty of guns and ammunition, we ought to be able to avoid the heavy losses which the infantry have always suffered on previous occasions.
The British and German trenches are divided by an 18-mile-long strip of no man's land, running from the village of Serre in the north to the River Somme in the south. Rawlinson's objective is to drive the Germans from their trenches and liberate the territory they have held for the last year and a half. This will be his battlefield. Under Rawlinson's command is a brand new army. The Fourth Army is made up largely of civilians who had volunteered 18 months ago at the outbreak of war. Typical of this new army are the 22nd Manchester Battalion. They arrived in France in February 1916. Captain Charlie May is an aspiring author with a wife and baby daughter back in England. He kept a diary of his time on the Somme.
We go because it is right and proper, we should. One is supposed to have, as a soldier going into action, no other desire than some high-souled ambition to do or die for his country. Reality, I'm afraid, falls far short.
In the same battalion was Sergeant Richard H. Tawney. A Christian socialist, he opposed war, but had volunteered after Germany invaded Belgium, turning down an officer's commission to serve in the ranks.
hatred of the enemy is not common, I think, among those who are here. For how can you do your duty as a soldier if you hate him? To kill in hatred would be murder. I don't think we're murderers. Just executioners.
What do you think they'll call the battle, Sarge?
I don't know. The Val, perhaps. Or the Battle of Mametz.
Call it anything. It takes two sides to make a battle.
Unlike Germany and France, Britain did not have a vast standing army to mobilize at the outbreak of war. Minister for War Lord Kitchener realized Britain needed a much bigger army if she was to influence the war in Europe. He appealed for 100,000 volunteers. Within 5 months, 2 million men had responded to the call. A year and a half later, many are on their way to the Somme. Like thousands of others, Cyril José lied about his age to enlist. He volunteered to the 2nd Devonshire Battalion when he was just 15. He regularly writes to his mother and sisters Ivy and Myrtle, back home in Cornwall.
That's my sister, and that's my mum. What's so funny?
Dearest Mert, we have just come back from church parade and Holy Communion. Chaplain asked me my name and where I came from. Asked me how old I was too. Of course, I couldn't tell a chaplain a fib, so I told him. Patted me on the back, said, "Splendid, splendid." Not bad of him, was it? Goodbye, and God bless you all. Love from Cyril.
General Rawlinson's plan for the Somme is shaped by one major concern. Aware that his volunteer battalions have no battle experience, he opts for a simple strategy.
It does not appear to me that the gain of 2 or 3 kilometers of ground is of much consequence. Our aim, rather, should be to kill as many Germans as possible with the least loss to ourselves. Fight and hold, gentlemen. Take what the Germans have all along here and invite them to try and take it back.
The German army had arrived on the Somme in September 1914 and dug its first trench. A year and a half later, this has grown into an almost impenetrable defensive system. Trenches created a new kind of warfare. With miles of barbed wire and hundreds of machine gun posts protecting them, every attack is extremely costly. Rawlinson's strategy to counter the Germans' defences is simple. A long artillery bombardment will destroy the trenches and kill the German soldiers. He will then send the infantry over the top to march unopposed across no man's land. They then repeat the process, trench by trench, across the entire front.
Wir dachten schon, du wärst nach Hause gegangen. Hier ist doch zu Hause.
Lass mal versuchen, das ein ganz...
With bunkers up to 40 feet underground, often with electric light, for German conscripts like Private Eversman, the Somme is one of the safest places on the Western Front. He kept a diary of his time there.
We sit here doing not very much. Apart from the rats and lice, who are always with us, it is not too bad.
Riech doch mal. Das hast du doch nicht selber gefüllt, oder?
Du bist der Abschaum der deutschen Armee.
Prost! Möge uns Verdun erspart bleiben.
Für immer.
Und darauf, dass die Preußen nicht hierher kommen und uns den ganzen Spaß verderben.
It must become second nature! Stick him!
Rawlinson's volunteer army lack the German army's battle experience. To make up for this, they go through intense training. For 16-year-old volunteer Cyril Jose, drill in the British Army's traditional weapon is relentless.
Dearest Ivy, stand back. I've got my own rifle and bayonet. New ones. With the bayonet fixed, it reaches up to my ear from the ground.
Don't tickle him! Give me that rifle! Load point! Whack! Withdraw! Whack! Symbol!
Nearly got it hot today. I had my bayonet fixed in my room with the sheath off and pointed it at another chap. Just then the sergeant walked in.
Keep those lines straight!
By George, didn't he swear? He told me it was one of the greatest crimes in the army to point your bayonet at anyone. Said I could have got 3 months confinement.
Become second nature!
With 6 weeks to go before the attack, the previously quiet Somme sector is undergoing a transformation. Shells have to be stockpiled. Roads have to be built, drains dug, water pipes and telephone lines laid. Like many other battalions destined for the big push, the Manchesters provide the labour for this huge task. A clerk before he joined the Manchesters, Arthur Burke describes the preparations for attack to his brother back home.
My dear Reg, now here's the excitement. We're digging a trench in front of our own line. Now you know what that means. A shiver came down our backs when we knew we were for it.
I don't know why we're fighting for this solemn place. If it were mine, I'd give it to them, save all the fuss.
Don't worry about them buggers. If the name's on it, it's got it. Of course, Fritz heard us coming, so he began giving us a warm time. And you know you can't dig without making a noise. So when we did start, our friend over the way didn't have to get his wind up. We were dodging and digging from 11 till 2:30 a.m. Wasn't we glad when time was up? We've been in the line since Tuesday, doing 6 days in the firing line and 4 days in reserve. This last time has been a bugger.
For Captain May and Sergeant Tawney, censoring the men's letters is a daily duty.
I hate doing this.
It's amazing what you discover, though, isn't it? About the men, I mean.
I'd rather not know some of it.
You know Dooley, Prince's platoon? He was sitting on the Parados one night, while the batteries were firing. One of our shells, pitched short, entered the ground with a fierce thud right under the spot where the man was sitting. It was a dud.
Lucky old Dooley.
God bless the fool who made that shell, he said. Never even troubled to change his position.
Cyril Jose writes home, describing the build-up for the big push with the 2nd Devonshires.
My dearest mother, we had rather a rough time. We've been working on building the parapet thicker besides doing sentry duty, so we can only get a little sleep between reliefs. If I have 3 hours sleep in 24 hours, I consider I have done well. I hope you've not been worrying. God bless you, Cyril.
The increased Allied activity on the Somme is soon noticed by the Germans, who respond by reinforcing their defences. When Rawlinson receives reports of this, he demands to see what the Germans are up to for himself. Rawlinson discovers that the Germans have not been idle. They have started building a whole new line of trenches beyond their 2 existing ones. It is an ominous sight, signalling that the Germans intend to fight hard to hold every single yard.
Keine Zeit, um Sehenswürdigkeiten zu besichtigen! Fertig?
To defend their well-developed trench system, the Germans had a powerful weapon, the machine gun. Strategically placed all along the front line, the machine gun posts are heavily protected and are manned by expertly trained crews. One well-positioned gun can lay down a hail of bullets over a distance of 3,000 yards. Lieutenant Franz Cassel and his unit, like all others along the Somme, are now in a state of high alert.
Besser. Also, das Ganze nochmal.
The British preparations for the offensive involve a massive logistical challenge. 400,000 men and 100,000 horses have to be moved and billeted. But the key to Rawlinson's plan will be the bombardment, set to be the biggest in British military history. Over 1.5 million shells are stockpiled, more than they have fired in the past 12 months of the war. General Rawlinson is under no illusion about the challenge facing his inexperienced army. Nevertheless, he remains convinced that with the right amount of guns and ammunition, he can destroy the German defences and avoid heavy British casualties. On June 24th, 5 days before the attack, the guns begin the methodical destruction of the German trenches. It's the biggest bombardment the British Army has ever mounted. Day and night, the barrage never stops. Forced to take shelter in their underground bunkers, the Germans wait for the barrage to lift. Lieutenant Cassel and his machine gun crew are in the defences at Thiepval.
We were exhausted and slept as much as one could. The noise of the barrage was so constant, it prevented sleep for overtired people.
Entschuldigung. Habe ich das letzte Mal schon gelacht, als du das gemacht hast?
Ich wollte dir noch eine zweite Chance geben. Gib mir noch eine dritte Chance und ich hau dir eins in die Fresse. Jetzt hört endlich auf zu ratschen.
Dan schik ik bij de wachtlijst.
There was only one anxiety. Could one rely on the sentries? They stood on the top steps of the dugout and had to watch across the parapet to see whether the enemy was coming across. Day long, night long. And not all men are heroes.
As the Allied bombardment enters its third day, British aerial reconnaissance reports the apparent destruction of the German front line. Trenches have been levelled, lines of supply and communication cut, but unseen from the air, thousands of German troops are still safe in their bunkers. After 72 hours of constant bombardment, conditions for Private Eversman are swiftly deteriorating.
Von der MG-Einheit.
Die hatten was übrig?
Jeder hat seinen Anteil genommen.
How long will it go on? In the last 12 hours, they estimate that 60,000 shells have fallen in our sector. Every communication has been cut.
Sag mal, gibt's Neuigkeiten aus dem hinteren Front?
Nichts. Die Briten scheinen uns am langen Arm verhungern lassen zu wollen.
Gibt's ja nicht.
It cannot last much longer. They say their munitions will soon be done. But when will they attack? Tomorrow? The day after? Who knows?
It wasn't just their dugouts that protected the Germans. Although the British bombardment was on an unprecedented scale, many thousands of their shells failed to explode. General Rawlinson is unaware of this and believes that his artillery has destroyed the German defences completely. All along the front line, British troops now ready themselves for the fight with the enemy that they volunteered for almost 2 years ago.
Sir.
Over there.
Captain Charlie May, of the 22nd Manchesters, records the final countdown to attack.
More orders. Still they come. The foolscap is piling up into formidable piles. One almost begins to feel that if any mistake is made in the fight, it will be from over-organization.
Rawlinson's meticulous plan details the objective of every single man due over the top.
So that's A Company on the left, then us, B, and D Company. We're all in the first wave going over at 0 hour. So, we'll follow a creeping barrage laid down by our 18-pounders to Black Trench, a gentle walk. Then, when we get here, the barrage will lift on to the next target over there in Danzig Alley. We will then reassemble, ready for the final objective, which, as you're all aware, is here and here. Sergeant.
Every 10th man will wear one of these polished pieces of metal on his back to enable our artillery to spot our progress.
And if the sun doesn't shine, sir?
Oh, I'm quite sure GHQ will have organised that. Finally, the use of the word retire is absolutely forbidden. And if heard, can only be a ruse of the enemy and must be ignored. Good. Carry on, Sergeant.
Captain Charlie May and the 250 men of B Company are to attack from trenches 150 yards away from the German lines at Mametz. Their objective is to take a series of enemy trenches, culminating in Bunny Alley and Fritz Trench. Then, just one day before the attack is due to start, heavy showers and low cloud descend on the Somme. With poor visibility hampering his artillery, Rawlinson decides to postpone the attack 48 hours until July the 1st. While the guns continue to bombard the German lines, 120,000 men, poised for attack, are ordered to wait.
Come on, men. Come on, then, rockets. Come on. Oh, yes. How's that? Roll that one like a Yorkshireman.
And so here we still are, with speculation rife and rumours bright and rumours grave, twiddling our thumbs and wondering.
This one's for you, Andrews. Okie dokie, Thomas. Come along.
All dressed up and nowhere to go.
Oh, beauty.
The news from everywhere today is excellent. The moment seems very auspicious for us to strike.
Whoa! Out!
On the eve of battle, the 22nd Manchesters finally leave their billets and move up to the front line.
Wait for the camera, lads. We're off to get Fritz's son.
Aside from their standard equipment, men carry 250 rounds of ammunition, 2 Mills bombs, a waterproof sheet, sandbag, field dressing, emergency ration, including biscuit, smoke helmet, wire cutters, pick and shovel, with the heaviest tools carried by the strongest men. Others carry barbed wire, fence posts, field telephones, even carrier pigeons. Such is the confidence in the artillery bombardment, the men carry everything they need to take and hold the German trenches.
This immense, overwhelming tranquility of sky and down, uniting us millions of enemies and allies in its solemn, unavoidable embrace, dwarfed into insignificance the wrath of man and his feverish energy of destruction. It was a perfect evening. One forgot the object for which we were marching to the trenches.
Is that the new rest home?
On the day before the attack, a culture of optimism runs from high command all the way down through the ranks. Brigadier General Rees has recently taken command of the 31st Division's 94th Brigade.
You are about to fight in one of the greatest battles of the world. And in the most just cause. Remember that the Empire will anxiously watch your every move. Keep your heads, do your duty, and you will utterly defeat the enemy.
You will be able to go over the top with a walking stick. Rifles, you will not need. As the Major General said, all we'll find in Thiepval is the caretaker and his dog.
You may take prisoners, and if you do, they'll be sharing your rations, not mine. Any shirkers refusing to go over or caught behind the line will be shot.
Despite the faith General Rawlinson has in his artillery, he is also prepared for heavy casualties. He orders that 18 ambulance trains be standing by to evacuate the wounded. American heiress Mary Borden left Chicago to work for the Red Cross at the outbreak of war. She has since set up a mobile hospital attached to the French army, who were fighting alongside the British on the Somme.
10 kilometers from here along the road is the place where men are wounded. This is the place where they are mended. We send our men up the broken road between bushes of barbed wire, and they come back to us, one by one, in ambulances lying on stretchers. We conspire against their right to die. We experiment with their bones, their muscles, their blood.
Vous avez tout ce qu'il vous faut? Très bien.
Mademoiselle, je vous aime.
When we hurt them, they try not to cry. Often, they apologize for dying.
On the eve of battle, 120,000 men squeeze into the British frontline trenches. The artillery barrage will continue until the very moment they are scheduled to attack, 7:30 a.m., 0 hour. After 6 days and 6 nights under constant bombardment, Private Eversman writes what he believes will be his final diary entry.
My head is like a madman's. The tongue sticks to the roof of the mouth. Almost nothing to eat and nothing to drink. And no sleep. All contact with the outer world cut. Haven't we had enough of this frightful horror? This hell concert? If I may not see my loved ones again, I greet them with that last farewell.
All along the front line, men write what could be their final messages home to their families. Cyril Jose, who joined the army when he was only 15, writes to his mother back home in England.
My dearest mother, so sorry I haven't written before, but after I wrote you last we went in the trenches, and it was too wet to write. Weather spanking up to now, though Fritz chucks his weight about a bit just to relieve the monotony. Lots of skylarks singing over the lines. We hear one first just before standing to arms in the morning. Ivy asks whether I've grown taller, shorter, thinner or stouter. Well, I think I've grown a bit taller and bigger. About 5'6.5" I must be now. Was 5'4 3/4 when I enlisted. We'll write again soon as poss. Goodbye for time and God bless you all. Best love from Cyril.
At midnight, Sergeant Tawney and the Manchesters have yet to reach their positions in the front line.
I don't know anything more exasperating than walking 1 to 2 miles with a stoppage every 10 or 20 yards. Especially when you're one of a long string of tired men and have a rifle and other traps hitched to you.
Come on, what is the problem up there?
Some box up, Sarge.
You and you, get these men shifted.
Sorry, pal.
It is early in the morning when the Manchesters finally reach their positions for the attack.
For you.
Thank you.
The orders have come down. 0 hour 7:30. Heard some of the men singing the Marseillaise earlier on. You know,
I know what it is. If you want to know, I don't give a damn about France. The Jerrys can have it. Well, we're here now. And they're not going to push us around.
Like many, Captain Charlie May considers the possibility he might not survive the coming battle.
I must not allow myself to dwell on the personal. There is no room for it here. Also, it is demoralizing. But I do not want to die. Not that I mind for myself. If I have to go, I am ready. But the thought I may never see you or our darling baby again turns my bowels to water. It may well be that you will only have to read these lines as ones of passing interest. On the other hand, they may well be my last message to you. Know through all of your life that I love you and baby with all my heart and soul. That you two sweet things were just all the world to me. I pray God I may do my duty. For I know you would not have it otherwise.
Saturday, July 1st, 1916. The British Army prepares to launch its biggest attack of the First World War. Its volunteer army, untried in battle, is about to face the ultimate test. Sergeant Tawney witnesses the final frenzied bombardment of the German line.
It was not a noise, but a symphony. It did not move, it hung over us. It was as though the air were full of a vast and agonized passion, bursting into groans and sighs. One had only to lift one's eyes to be appalled by the writhing of the tormented elements above.
Miles north, the 2nd Middlesex have the greatest distance to their objective, 750 yards of no man's land, nicknamed Mash Valley. Second Lieutenant Alfred Bundy arrived in France only 3 weeks ago.
It is freely stated that there will be no resistance. Our drum fire has been going on for days, and the German lines appear to be pulverized. Surely nothing can live there.
Lieutenant! Those men up there, get them down!
It's a walkover, sir!
It's nothing of the kind! Get them down now!
In command of the 4 battalions of the 94th Brigade on July the 1st, Brigadier General Rees has a perfect view of the final bombardment.
I stood on top to watch, and it was magnificent. The trenches in front of Serre changed shape and dissolved minute by minute under the terrific hail of steel. Watching, I began to believe in the great possibility of success.
Inspired by the final barrage, optimism runs high throughout the British front line. But Captain Charlie May is not so confident.
Our gunnery has wrecked his front-line trenches, all right. But we do not yet seem to have stopped his machine guns. These are popping off all along our parapet as I ride. I trust they will not claim too many of our lads before the day is over.
My dear Reg, these are a special few lines which I want you to take care of until perhaps you hear from me again. Everything at present is absolutely thumbs up. It's very cheerful. Still very bright and trusting to the best of luck. Remember me sincerely to my numerous, kind, good old friends. My dearest love to Ma, Tot, Monty and babies. Trusting this is au revoir, not goodbye. Your loving brother, Paddy.
Suppose one should lose one's head and get other men cut up.
Fix! Give it here, Jimmy!
Suppose one's legs should take fright and refuse to move. Undoubtedly man walks between precipices, and no one knows the rottenness in him until he cracks. And then it's too late.
Harry, your watch, can I?
Thanks. Here, it's difficult, let me. Good luck. See you in Danzig Alley. Do not shout! Do not run! And for God's sake, boys, do not bunch!
Dearest Ive, just time to write a few lines before the post goes. Suppose I'll get leave soon. Oh, these horrors of war. Well, goodbye for a time, Ive dear. Love to all, Cyril.
"4 miles behind the front line, Rawlinson and his staff officers watched the culmination of their months of planning.
Now. Come on.
God's sake! Get us going!
Right on schedule, at 7:30 a.m., along the entire 18-mile front, 60,000 men leave their trenches and start out across no man's land.
Stay with me, won't you?
You'll see me, Jimmy, and we'll be fine.
Will you be with me?
Look, it's just a short walk. One end of Old Trafford to the other.
Lieutenant Castle and his machine gun crew have survived the bombardment.
Das ist es jetzt! Dann los, los, los! Macht schon! Macht schon!
Like thousands of other Germans, the end of the barrage is the cue to leave their bunkers and defend their front line. They rush out of their dugouts and run to man the machine gun posts.
No, boys. We are still alive. The moles have come out of their holes.
Sie kommen! Sie kommen!
In the south of the battlefield, the 22nd Manchesters lead the attack on Mametz.
Keep extension!
We had 900 yards of rough ground to the trench that was our first objective,
No bunch on your left!
and about 1,500 to a further trench where we were to wait for orders.
Our colonel had watched us mount the steps, and his last remarks were, "Isn't it wonderful?" We extended to 6 paces and walked.
In the centre of the battlefield, the 2nd Middlesex are halfway across Smash Valley.
Don't bunch back there, keep formation!
It is the first time Lieutenant Bundy has led a platoon in battle.
My platoon continued to advance in good order until we had reached nearly halfway to the Boche front line.
Steady, Middlesex!
Here they come. The khaki yellows.
Not only has the British bombardment failed to cause heavy casualties among the German troops, it has also failed to cut through much of their barbed wire. Advancing British soldiers are forced to funnel through any gaps in these defences, making them easy targets for machine gun fire.
Schussweite! 300 Meter!
Fertig!
Feuer! Down!
I shouted down, but most of those that were not hit had already taken what cover they could find. In all directions came pitiful groans and cries of pain.
Less than a mile away, the 2nd Devonshires start their attack at Auvillers. Cyril Jose is in the first wave at 7:30.
We went over with the feeling in us of the song, over the top, and never come back again. People say you go absolutely mad. You don't. I've never felt so cool and matter-of-fact in all my life. I was surprised.
From his dugout, Brigadier General Rees watches his brigade advance.
I have never seen a finer display of individual and collective bravery than the advance of that brigade. I never saw a man waver from the exact line prescribed for him.
I was still more surprised by the reception. Of course, we might expect to be sniped at by a stray German, naturally. You know what a hailstorm is. That's about the chance one stood of dodging the bullets, shrapnel, etc. Old Johnny has had me for a target for over 13 months, chucked all kinds of stuff at me, from coal boxes to iron foundries. Then he only managed to put a bullet through my shoulder. Must have been that stray sniper.
As Brigadier General Rees watches his men decimated by machine gun fire, there is worse to come. The German artillery, which the British thought had been destroyed, begins to open fire.
It was the most frightful artillery display that I have seen up to that time. And in some ways, I think it was the heaviest barrage I have seen put down by the defense on any occasion.
In the far south, the Manchesters have crossed no man's land in 15 minutes and taken the enemy trench that is their first objective.
Stay sharp, you men.
They have a further 3 trenches to take this morning.
If it's all like this, it'll be a cakewalk.
I hate touching wounded men.
Sarge?
Moral cowardice, I suppose.
I've seen him. Just you keep building that step.
One hurts them so much, and there's so little to be done.
We're losing the barrage. Leave the wounded, get the men ready to move.
All right, lads, this is it.
Captain May's company move on to their next objective, but they are a few minutes behind schedule. The artillery barrage covering their advance on Danzig Alley has already moved forward, giving the Germans time to man their defences. Rawlinson arrives at his headquarters 4 miles behind the front line and receives the first reports on the battle.
Enemy barrage reported feeble. I know that. I was there. Anything in the last few minutes?
From 8th Division, sir.
Gentlemen, we've broken through the German line.
The early reports reaching Rawlinson are positive. In reality, though, the attack is faltering along most of the British front. One significant breakthrough has been made, though, in the south of the battlefield, near Mametz.
Get a firing position and keep that bloody Maxim's head down! For Christ's sake, leave him. Get in next to Sergeant Tony.
The Manchesters have taken their first objective, but are now coming under fierce German counterattacks.
Get down!
The Germans were brave men, as brave as lions. It was insane. It seemed one couldn't miss them. Every man I fired at dropped, except one. Him, the boldest of the lot, I missed more than once. Not that I wanted to hurt him. It was missing I hated. That's the beastliest thing in war. The damnable frivolity. God forgive us all.
By 8:30, an hour into the attack, some 60,000 British soldiers have been sent into battle. Less than a third have achieved their objectives. In just 60 minutes, it is estimated that 30,000 have become casualties. That's 8 soldiers hit every single second. Half of the first wave are lying dead or wounded in no man's land. Throughout the morning, a further 60,000 British soldiers go over the top. They emerge from their trenches to face fierce German machine gun and artillery fire. For Lieutenant Kassel and his machine gun unit, the advancing troops are an easy target. Second Lieutenant Alfred Bundy is still trapped in no man's land. Here, the bombardment has completely failed to destroy the German defences. Bundy's first experience of battle has been watching his platoon die.
All right there. Where is it? German line. Which way?
That way!
A massacre is unfolding across the 18-mile front. Brigadier General Rees has seen much of his brigade destroyed, and it is becoming clear that the attack here at Serre is going disastrously wrong. He now decides to go directly against Rawlinson's orders.
What does signal say?
Line's dead, sir.
The second wave support gone up yet?
The wildest reports were rife at this time. Messages were pouring in. An aeroplane reported that my men were in Serre.
That is an ignorant joke. The only men we have in Serre must be prisoners. Where is the brigade reserve now?
They're moving up to go over now, sir.
Stop them. On no account must those men be allowed to leave their trenches.
Sir?
My two staff officers were considerably surprised when I stopped the advance.
Do you hear? Yes, sir.
It was their first experience of battle, and they had great difficulty in understanding that the whole brigade had been destroyed.
By mid-morning, tens of thousands of men are pinned down, wounded or dead in no man's land. News that the attack is not going to plan has reached General Rawlinson at 4th Army headquarters.
I think I understand. They can't both be right. Have we consolidated in Serre, or are we in retreat?
The 31st is in Serre.
I'd like to believe you, but at this moment I'm not sure I can. Message to Goff. Tell him the cavalry won't be moving before 1400.
Rawlinson's only significant breakthroughs are in the far north and south of the battlefield. But amidst the confused reports arriving at headquarters, rather than push home the advance with his cavalry, he decides to wait. After their initial success, the Manchesters have been decimated by heavy German counterattacks. Captain May and Sergeant Tawney are in dire need of reinforcement.
We've got about 20 men fit for something! We're the harrowing company! Our right flank's in the air! They can't have just disappeared! I'll find them! Wait! Your men! 3 rounds rapid fire now!
In a desperate search for more men, Sergeant Tawney sets off back towards the British lines.
Of course, it was idiotic. If our company had lost half or more of its strength, why should A Company have fared any better? But there. I suppose the idea of death in mass takes a lot of hammering into one before one grasps it.
Tawny's search for reinforcements is over. By midday, Rawlinson has started to learn the full extent of the failure of his plan.
Is it true? We're not in Thiepval.
It's been pretty brisk.
And sir?
Sharp there too.
Casualties are already starting to arrive at Mary Borden's hospital. Most of the wounded, however, are still stranded on the battlefield.
It was my business to know which of the wounded could wait and which could not. If I made any mistakes, someone would die on their stretchers on the floor under my eyes, who need not have died.
Donnez-lui de l'eau si l'on réclame.
I've learnt to read the signs, from what is written on their tickets, and from the way they look, and the way they feel to my hand. My hand can tell of itself one kind of cold from another, can tell the difference between the cold of night and the stealthy cold of death. This is the second battlefield. The battle is going on over the helpless bodies of these men.
Un blessé au poumon vient d'arriver, vous pouvez le prendre?
Dans 5 minutes. Mademoiselle, attachez ses bras. Qu'est-ce que vous faites? Qu'est-ce que vous faites?
It is we who are doing the fighting now, with their real enemies.
At noon, after 8 days underground, Private Eversman is still fighting hard to defend the German line. Lieutenant Alfred Bundy has been pinned down in a shell hole in no man's land since the attack started 4.5 hours ago.
I occasionally attempted to move to my right and left, but bullets were forming an impenetrable barrier. I was almost tempted to take a chance and crawl back in daylight. I was dreading the dark, for I thought I should lose my sense of direction in my distraught condition.
Out of the 800 men of Lieutenant Bundy's battalion who attacked that morning, 540 have been wounded or killed. Across the whole battlefield, almost 60,000 British soldiers have become casualties. 6 times the number expected by Rawlinson. Thousands of men are dying of their wounds in no man's land.
This is death. I don't know what most men feel like when they're wounded. What I felt was that I'd been hit by a tremendous iron hammer, swung by a giant of inconceivable strength, and then twisted with a sickening sort of wrench.
Stretcher! Bear it!
Of course, it was imbecile and cowardly.
Stretcher bearers!
They couldn't hear me. And if they could, they wouldn't have come.
Stretcher bearers!
It was asking them to commit suicide. But I'd lost my self-respect.
Stretcher bearers!
After more than 6 hours of fighting, the 22nd Manchesters have made it only 1,000 yards from their front line and have still not taken Danzig Alley. Captain Charlie May is unaware his friend Sergeant Tawney is lying wounded a few hundred yards away.
Ready, lads! 1, 2, 3, come on! Stick on! Stick on, lads!
Finally, the Manchesters break through into Danzig Alley. Now face to face with the enemy, fighting with bayonet and hand grenade begins.
It was hell. We stuck the blighters and put them out of time. They threw up their hands. Mercy, camarade. We give them mercy. I don't think.
Stick 'em! Stick 'em, lads!
For Albert Andrews, his face-to-face meeting with the enemy is a moment of truth.
Oh, bitte, mein Herr, bitte. Lassen Sie mich am Leben. Ich habe 3 Töchter, die jüngste ist erst 2 und meine arme Frau muss den ganzen Hof alleine machen, bitte.
I was on guard and had my bayonet at his chest. He was trembling and looked half mad, saying something to me which I did not understand.
Das gehört alles Ihnen, das ist alles. Bitte bringen Sie mich nicht um, bitte.
All I could make out was that he did not want me to kill him.
Out of the way, Bert. Oh, bitte. Allmächtiger. Haben Sie Erbarmen. Denken Sie an meine arme Frau, Männer.
Look at him!
Gott, ich lasse die Engländer mit mir Erbarmen haben.
Come on! Go on! Get out of it! Go!
Soft.
That's for my brother! And that's for when you're in the trenches!
That kind of thing was going on all along the line. No Germans being spared. Wounded were killed by us all. We hadn't exactly been told no prisoners, but were given to understand that was what was wanted. The same kind of thing occurred at the 2nd German trench, and the 3rd.
We captured many guns, etc. All sorts of souvenirs. But the souvenir I treasure most is my life. Pray to God, Reg, and thank him for sparing me such mercy.
Captain Charlie May is not so blessed. His body is found outside Danzig Alley. No one saw him die.
My darling, au revoir. Know through all your life that I loved you and baby with all my heart and soul. that you two sweet things were just all the world to me.
May's battalion have taken their objective at enormous cost. Of the 820 men of the 22nd Manchesters who attacked that morning, 472 have been killed, wounded, or are missing. Despite the British breakthrough in the south by Immerse, along most of the 18-mile front, fierce German resistance has effectively destroyed the attack. Lieutenant Cassel is wounded in the fighting at Thiepval. By late afternoon, he is able to leave his machine gun unit to receive first aid.
Another half hour, and it becomes clear that the attack has been repelled. I find Captain Meschenbier of the 3rd Company suffering from a heart attack. Now only a few men from the 2nd line remained alive.
It is not yet apparent that July the 1st has been the worst day in British military history. In his diary that evening, Rawlinson notes that there are 16,000 casualties. In fact, his army has lost many more. Almost 40,000 lie injured, and over 19,000 men have been killed. Rawlinson's offensive has been a murderous failure. Only a fraction of those lying wounded on the battlefield are evacuated to hospital. Thousands die in no man's land, of wounds which, if treated, would not be fatal. After hours lying in no man's land, Sergeant Tawney is found by a medical officer.
He can't have been more than 25, but his face seemed to shine with love and comprehension. He listened like an angel while I told him a confused yarn. Then he said I had been shot by a rifle bullet and gave me morphia. Later I realized he thought I was done for. But after I felt that divine compassion flow over me, I didn't care. I was like a dog, kicked and bullied by everyone, that at last had found a master. We are your ghosts. In this game, played by monkeys, organized by lunatics.
At Mary Borden's hospital, ambulances continue to bring wounded men from the battlefield.
The air was thick with steaming sweat, mud, dirt and blood. I'm not hungry. I'm not tired. I am busy.
Mademoiselle, venez par ici.
Je suis occupée.
C'est vous qu'il lui faut.
It is a scene in eternity, in some strange dream hell where I'm glad to be employed, where I belong. We are locked together, the wounded and I.
C'est un Anglais? Qu'est-ce qu'il fait là? English? You're wounded in the stomach. You'll be fine. La morphine tant qu'il en faut.
Private Eversman is one of an estimated 8,000 German casualties. His diary is found on the evening of July the 1st.
What will be the outcome? Heaven knows. Shall I live to see the breaking of a new day?
For the Allied commanders, there is no question of abandoning the offensive. With many wounded still in no man's land, fighting resumes the very next morning on July the 2nd. "17-year-old Cyril Jose is one of the lucky ones. Wounded in the first 5 minutes of the battle, he is evacuated to hospital and then back to England.
My dearest Ive, I couldn't get back to our own lines until next morning. I didn't eat anything, but lived on pulling off dead men's water bottles. About 6 a.m. I began crawling back. Old Johnny sniped at me all the way back, but I dodged him by getting in the shell holes. I heard of our battalion 27 answered roll call after the battle. So you can imagine, 27 out of 1,000 men. Thank you awfully for the postal order. Love to father, mother and Bert. Cyril."
Like so many others, Captain Charlie May was buried where he fell. Over the following days, a shockwave travelled through the British Isles, as thousands of telegrams told mothers, wives and lovers that their men were not coming home. The battle on the Somme ground murderously on for another 4 months, until it fizzled out in November 1916. It ended on roughly the same ground on which it had begun. Both sides bled dry. The final combined casualty figure for the British, French, and German soldiers who fought there was over 1 million dead, wounded, or missing. A meaningless carnage, this battle in the war that was supposed to end all wars was in fact only the beginning of the bloodiest century in history.